Well, we've seen what the Trump administration is doing to counter the cartels at sea. But behind the scenes, someone else has been hard at work on this issue. Texas GOP Congressman Dan Crenshaw leads the House Intelligence Committee's Cartel Task Force. He says the Mexican cartels no longer look like drug rings, but terrorist insurgency, destabilizing North America. And the U.S. needs a joint strategy with Mexico to win. So what does this strategy look like on this side of the Rio Grande? Here's what Congressman Crenshaw had to say. Well, Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know you're leading the charge in Congress aimed at taking down drug cartels. Why is what is happening now, what you're doing and what you've been focused on, different than the sort of war on drugs approach that we kind of saw previously?
You know, I mean, the war on drugs has evolved into a counterterrorism war. You know, President Trump made that very clear on day one when he designated them as foreign terrorist organizations. They've really operated that way for a very long time. What's new to Americans is the fentanyl crisis, you know, and that's, I think, what's woken up our country to it. But in Mexico, this has been a long-standing problem, and you know, it goes back to the poppy-growing days in the early 1900s in the mountains of Sinaloa. But the cartels have been violent terrorist organizations for a long time, terrorizing the Mexican people mostly, and so you have to treat them as such. And you have to treat them as a conglomerate as well. They're an insurgency within Mexico. And why do we care? Well, we care about the fentanyl problem, obviously. And we can deter that by simply targeting them. I think that's like a short-term goal. But our long-term goal has to be a stable, prosperous, safe Mexico. Why? It's our biggest trading partner. It's our neighbor. You know, you got to pick one country in the world besides your own that you want to make better. It should be Mexico, because it matters to us. So there wasn't really a big push in Congress for this. A lot of people like to talk about the cartels, beat their chest about the cartels. It's a bit different going down to Mexico a lot and actually learning the situation. And so that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
I think a lot of Americans look at the drug cartels and they see it maybe as just a border issue. Mm-hmm. But you might argue, I would imagine, Congressman, that it's something much bigger than that, and there's a bigger reason that Americans should care about it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, cartels run the border. Different cartels run different plazas. Plaza just refers to it could literally be a plaza, but it mostly refers to areas of control. They have plaza bosses, and there's a variety of cartels that run that. That's how human trafficking gets through. Now, we've pretty much taken away that funding mechanism for them because President Trump pretty much solved the border in about 5 seconds as soon as he took office. And we're lucky right now. Let me give you some good news now. Okay, so perfect storm sort of happening, right? President Trump takes over. He wants to focus on this. Appoints somebody like Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio has a pretty good understanding of Latin America, speaks Spanish perfectly, had a great visit with President Sheinbaum just recently. And the other good thing that's happened is President Obrador isn't president anymore. You have President Sheinbaum. Now, look, that's his successor in a way, like same party, same maybe leftist socialist tendencies, but definitely a very different security posture and a vastly different level of cooperation with our intelligence and our military than we've seen before. And I think we have a ton of opportunity to work together. And the administration, again, kudos, every agency is pushing in the right direction. They understand the problem and they're pushing in the right direction. Congress is behind, and I'm trying to fix that.
Well, we've seen how seriously this president has taken ensuring that illicit drugs are not coming into this country. We've seen multiple strikes, Congressman, on these vessels within the Caribbean by this administration, ensuring that, you know, these drugs never even reach our shores, sending a message to these drug cartels. What is your take on that? That new tactic? We have never seen the United States of America act as aggressively as we are right now to combat the drugs coming in.
I want people to know also, because there's a lot of critiques on this. How do we know that those are even bad guys? What if we hit the wrong boat? We know. I can't tell you how we know, but we absolutely are certain. We make confirmation that the people on board are who we think they are and part of the organization that has been designated as an FTO. We make sure of that, and we make sure that the cargo on board is exactly what we think it is. Do we hit every? We don't even hit every single one. But people have to keep in mind that interdiction by itself just can't work. There's just you can do all the interdiction in the world, it won't matter. better to just shoot him out of the water. The president has full legal right to do so, and that's been established by the courts over and over again. So those arguments don't really hold any water either, but neither do those boats after they're sunk. So.
Touche, neither do the boats. Well, we know a lot of these boats, I would say most of them, are coming from Venezuela. Mm-hmm. And this president has increased his pressure campaign on Venezuela and their illegitimate leader, Nicolas Maduro. For the average American watching, why is Venezuela such a big player in all of this? Why is so much coming out of Venezuela?
Well, because they're broke and they need money. So when we say they're involved in narco trafficking, there's plenty of evidence for it. I mean, for instance, there's a bunch of high-ranking officials that have been promoted by Maduro that are we know are drug traffickers. Like they're indicted here in the U.S. They need the money, and yeah, it's an illegitimate regime. It's a criminal regime, and so I think it's perfectly acceptable. And we're not even doing it in their territorial waters, by the way. That would be an extra step, but. So yeah, Venezuela is not a good actor, to say the least. Maduro is, like you said, an illegitimate dictator, terrorizing his own people and country.
Well, one of the things that I don't think people have acknowledged enough is the role that China is playing in all of this. Part of, I think, what this administration is trying to do in terms of ensuring this maritime dominance in the Caribbean is ensuring that China also doesn't get a foothold in the Caribbean and in South America, and maybe weakening them to a certain extent there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I hope it works. I think the president has sent a message all over the world. It's not unique to the Caribbean. He has sent a message across the world with his foreign policy that we are not to be messed with. I mean, Iran, if you even think about getting a nuclear weapon in a short amount of time, we're going to send our biggest bomb into your bunkers. Like, that's a pretty big message. Message to the Houthis. You just keep going down the list. He's just now sanctioned Russian oil companies too, because he's tired of Putin, frankly, being a jerk and refusing to come to the table. And so this president means business. So I think the Chinese have gotten that message across the board. And yes, that is my hope, because the Chinese are always trying to infiltrate into our backyard. But, look, what was the first trip by Secretary Rubio? It was to Panama. What did the Panamanians do right after that? They said, you know what, those Chinese ports on either side of the canal, they're illegal now. They're unconstitutional, so they're fighting that. So we're, in the end, the Western Hemisphere wants to be our friend, not China's, Venezuela and Cuba aside.
You were here, obviously, during Joe Biden's tenure as president. You were here now with Donald Trump 2.0, as a lot of people like to call him. The difference from where you sit in the United States Congress, what have you felt is the biggest difference? I mean, we see all the things out there, Congressman Crenshaw, but what have you noticed in particular?
Related to cartels specifically, it's not like the Biden administration ignored it. At least they had some kind of deals with the previous Mexican administration, but the previous Mexican administration was not cooperative. You'd be amazed by the conversations I had with their foreign minister folks. I mean, it was just silly. That's changed. So they were doing a little, but they never made it a priority, obviously. They never directed Northcom to actually start making a plan to, train and equip Mexican special forces, which is what we're doing now.
Pretty important stuff.
Yeah, that's just a few. Oh my God, we could keep going.
We could be here all day talking about this.
We could be here all day if you want to know the difference between Biden and Trump.
Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.